Nah, it feels weird doing the oh hi for this, so hey. I didn't know what else to title this, so to let you know what this is gonna be about, I'm having a lot of feelings because we're a year out, almost, from the day my dad passed away, but this is the anniversary of the beginning of what me and my sister have titled Hell Week, because it was the worst week of our entire lives for so many reasons, and obviously the biggest factor being we lost our dad at the end. So this is gonna be probably like a little weepy because heavy subject, but also just talking about life stuff and where I'm at a year after losing a parent, and want to share some stories about him and stuff we used to do together, because I don't think I've done a good job of talking about the good stuff about him, because I'm either vaguely negative or don't talk about it at all. So I want to honor him a little better and talk about where I'm at, because I have had a lot of friends. Thank fucking Christ for all the people in my life that knew we were coming up on a year out and have just been checking in on me throughout this past year, and not just immediately after losing my dad. Although anybody thinking of me at all, I so appreciate, and thank you for spending any time on me. It has all meant so much. I would not be as okay as I feel today without every person that stepped in throughout all of this. So thank you. All of it means so much. Even if you don't think you had a positive impact, you almost definitely did. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is a little early in the afternoon. It's like 3:15 on a Tuesday, but I'm done work at part-time job for the day, and I do have a lot of stuff to work on here. I have so many other video things in the pipeline, but I can't not do this one. So I'm gonna, in honor of my dad, crack open a beer. Sam Adams was like his fancy beer. So cheers, you fucking maniac, wherever you are. If you're saying to yourself that that's kind of an inappropriate thing to say to your deceased father, that man is where I get my really fucked up dark sense of humor and excellent use of inappropriate language, I think. He was a big fan of educating us wherever he could. So once we started swearing, he kind of just made sure using the words properly in a sentence. That is one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit, is that my dad was so into sharing knowledge in certain ways. That is something I always really loved about my dad, is that even when we were really little, he talked to us kids. I have 2 siblings. He talked to us like we were equals, as the adults talked to us like we were people, and not baby talk or anything like that. And if we had questions, he'd sit down and help us figure out the actual answer to it instead of just look it up in the dictionary. And he was a lumberjack for decades and decades, and did a lot of tree work, and was just a plant guy. And he would take me around the yard, and we had a ton of plants in our tiny little yard growing up. Did a lot of gardening and everything with my mom. Gorgeous forsythias and stuff in the front yard, and some days when I got home from school, we'd do a lap around the yard and he would point at whatever the plant was. The forsythia was the one I had the biggest struggle with spelling. He'd point to the plant, ask me what it was, ask me how to spell it, and then he would also bring home satchels. I was just telling my friend Sam about this, who he was trying to figure out if a tree was a regular maple or a sugar maple. I was like, oh, these are all things I used to know exactly how to identify all that stuff, because that's the stuff my dad would nerd out about with us. Yeah, he'd bring home these like satchels of different nuts he had found while he was out doing tree jobs, and he'd quiz me on what the nut was called and what kind of tree it came from. Of course, I didn't retain most of that, but that's how we would spend time. Like, if he was in charge of taking care of me for the afternoon. I'm a lot younger than my other siblings, so they were usually off doing like school things with my mom, and my dad would babysit me sometimes. Not babysitting, parenting me. He was my father. Yeah, and he just wanted to teach me whatever it was, and we spent a lot of time making stuff. I get my resourcefulness from my parents for sure. We had a big pog obsession. All 3 of us kids were very into pogs. Am I dating myself a little bit with that? Can you tell I'm 30? But we'd make our own pogs, where he would find a perfectly shaped branch, and we'd get our own little hand saws, cut them down into little medallions, and sand it down and do our own little artwork on it. I did a lot of like Care Bear birds, and I forgot about that until just now. Oh man, this is... I'm so glad I'm sharing these things. My heart feels very full thinking about this kind of stuff. We'd make our own little pogs, and then we'd properly play with them, and he'd teach me how to whittle, and he was determined to teach me how to play chess. And I even ended up joining a chess club when I was in middle school. I went to this summer camp for nerds, basically. It was like optional summer school that you wanted to go to, just learn for 8 hours a day plus 2 hours of homework 5 days a week for 8 weeks. It was heaven, to be honest. But it's because of him. I was, much like with the plant stuff, I was pretty good at chess, and then I didn't play for like 15 years, and I'm garbage at it now. Him and I would ride our bikes, do a tour of all the parks near us. We'd bring a chessboard and a bunch of pieces, and sometimes checkers too, and just play at all the parks. We'd get up at like 5 or 6 in the morning and go bike around before anybody else was at the playground. It was awesome, and maybe part of why I like getting up early on weekends now and going places when it isn't busy. I think it's because of him. I hate traffic and I hate crowds. I just can't do real packed places anymore. When we went to the beach growing up, it was always in the off season. When I think of beach trips, I usually went once per summer with my aunt and uncle that lived a few towns over, and my cousin Nikki, and those were a blast, but that felt so different than when my family went, because we'd load up the car or the van, whatever we had at the time, usually some kind of Jeep, and we'd hit the road at like 6 a.m. or get to the beach by 6 a.m. middle of February. There were no crowds to beat anyway, but we'd walk around the jetty, collect snails. I shouldn't have collected snails. I didn't have an aquarium for them to go into back home, so they all died, and I didn't intentionally murder them. I just wanted them so bad and just assume we'd figure something out, and then nothing would ever happen. So I am responsible for a lot of snail deaths, and I really apologize for that. Sometimes we'd still go in the water even though it was freezing cold. The North Atlantic is pretty fucking cold in the summer anyway, but it was just ours, and it felt great. That was pretty much it as far as like family trips. We never did vacations, never did Disney, none of that shit. It was going to the beach at 6 a.m. on like Groundhog Day or something, and I loved it. Some of the stuff I think most fondly about looking back at being a little kid. And it's thinking about those kinds of things that make me think about my dad the most. Obviously, not a day goes by where I don't miss him being here and think about him. I don't have a total breakdown every day multiple times a day like I had. I was a little emotional earlier today because it like dawned on me today was the beginning of it having been a year since Hell Week. Felt like something not looming over me, but like I had an emotional knot I had to work out. Even the outfit I am wearing today, I wasn't thinking about any of this morning. I thought today was like the 8th or 9th of August and not the 13th or 14th. But the dress I'm wearing, this is one of my 2 dresses that are not only for funerals, they're the ones I keep in mind. Like if I have a funeral to go to, I choose between this or one of my other dresses. And yeah, I'm wearing all black, and it's summertime. It is rainy today, but I tend to wear pretty bright colors this time of year, and there's just something somber feeling about today. It all makes sense. I know the next week is going to be emotionally tough. I'm sure I'm going to feel whatever this is a little more each day getting to the 21st. Although now that I'm finally letting myself think about it, because it was like there was a bee in the room and I was just pretending it wasn't there rather than acknowledging, hey, there's something bothering me. I need to give this some time and pay attention to this thing. But there was definitely something going on with me today, and then I finally acknowledged, oh, of course I'm feeling like this because it's this time of year, and I knew when we got to this point in the year it was going to be a tough time. I was so unaware of the date that it didn't occur to me. Also feel like there's going to be a sigh of relief after the 21st, because man, the first year is always hardest after losing someone. This is the closest person to me I've ever lost. But I've lost grandparents and friends throughout the years, and the first of everything without them is just as heartbreaking. Thanksgiving this year, that was the first big holiday without him, and you could feel it in the room. I sobbed the entire ride home. I kept my shit together there because I didn't want to get my mom going, but it's hard. Christmas felt a little easier because my mom and brother had been doing so much new stuff to the house. Like there were other distractions, I guess. Obviously then like his birthday and St. Patrick's Day and New Year's and Father's Day. So thankful I got to spend Father's Day with one of my very best friends. When she got the call that my dad was gone, she literally like hopped in her vehicle. She already had a bag packed and just drove 6+ hours to come see me. And I don't know what I would have done without her there that week. So it felt as close to being home as I could being with her for Father's Day this year. That really meant a lot. And we walked around this gorgeous garden, and that felt like walking with him a little bit because he was such a plant guy. Those are the things that really bring him to mind and make me feel like he's around a little more. I planted a tree, a red maple, in our front yard for him. That was a very weird incident, getting that tree, because how often does someone hand you a sapling? But I was handed a red maple sapling, which is my favorite tree. It was mine and my dad's favorite tree. There was a specific one in my yard growing up that we would sit under, rip rhubarb stalks off of the plants that we were growing and dip it in this little orange measuring cup of sugar and just snack and talk about our day and like what homework I had going on or what we were going to plant, anything to do with the pets, or just hang out underneath it. So yeah, it was weird that it was specifically a red maple, and the little bag that it was in said Bartlett Tree Company, which is who my dad worked for when I was little, when he planted that red maple in our yard around the time I was born. And then it's also handed to me by my manager at my part-time job, whose name is Tom, which was my dad's name, is my dad's name. I don't know how to refer to that in past or present tense. And it was my dad's birthday was on a Sunday this year, and I only was working Tuesdays and Thursdays at the time, and he gave it to me like the Thursday before my dad's birthday, and I fucking lost it. I broke it. I had to go hide in the bathroom because I haven't shared a lot of this stuff. I only very recently told one of the girls that I work with about some of the things that have happened. I think today was the first time I mentioned that my dad is gone. I don't just bring it up casually. The hard thing about that, not just flat out saying, by the way, you don't know this about me, but I lost my dad, so if I refer to certain things, this is why. That's a big thing to drop on someone. It's a weird thing to bring up. But the heartbreaking side of that is sometimes people have been like, are your parents divorced? Because I'll talk about my mom rather than my parents. Oh, I went to visit my mom this weekend, or went to my mom's house. They got it together, but it still feels weird calling it my parents' house. I know it's still their home. He's not gone in the memory sense, but I'm not visiting him, you know? You get it. You have all probably been in this kind of place in some capacity. So that's the hardest thing, is that people assume that they got a divorce and they were married over 40 years. And that's something that both my parents were very, very proud of. I'm proud of them for that. Especially in this day and age, that's a big accomplishment, you know? So that's that guts me. The couple of times it's happened where someone's been like, so are your parents divorced, or mom and dad not living together? It's like, oh, no. I mean, they don't. Technically, is tough. It's a tough thing to talk about to other people, which is why I don't tend to do it. Because even if someone more than acquaintances with, but aren't close friends, they're asking how I'm doing, and they say it in a way like, so how are you doing with everything? I still hold a lot back, because the couple times I have gone in to talk about the things, even acknowledging I watched my dad die. What are you supposed to respond to that with, you know? I don't fault other people for being like, how do you respond to that? But I also am getting asked more than hey, how's it going? Good, how are you? Following that up with, okay, but no, really, how are you? Then I will open up a little bit more, but then I still think people are biting off more than they can chew. Hard having gone through something so horrendous and traumatic and life-changing, and you can't even really honestly talk about it with most people. I am so lucky to have so many people in my life that get it, you know? That's part of why I'm friends with the people I'm friends with, is because I am very bad at small talk. I kind of get into bigger conversations pretty quickly, which I think, for me at least, I like, because I feel closer with people pretty quick. I feel like I have a lot of close friends because of this. It's just, it's who I am. It's like, tell me what you think happens when you die type of things. Not that it always has to be dark and about death or that heavy, but yeah, thankfully I have some outlets. But generally speaking, you know, I don't see those people every day or talk to them every day, and I get asked sometimes by some of you how I'm doing these days, and I wanted to talk about it. I had to get this out. I couldn't do anything else today. I can't. It's like I had to emotionally vomit a little bit, and I only do feel better now. So thank you so much to everyone that sat through this. We're gonna keep trucking along here. It's been a long and rocky road so far this year with everything else that's been going on with me, employment-wise. But I think of all people, my dad would be pretty fucking proud of what I've done so far. Who knows how much longer I'll be able to keep up doing this, at least partially self-employed life. I don't know. The window is narrowing every month, so I'm gonna keep going as long as I can. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's been supporting me thus far. It means the world. You're changing my life directly, so thank you to all of you and for all the kind messages over the years. And I'm feeling a weight lifting off of me, so I think I'm gonna end this here, and I'll see you all back here with another video on Saturday. Yeah, thank you all for hanging out so much. I'll talk to you soon.